Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Renegade Operative, and today we will be covering the giant article piece that was done by Game Informer for Resident Evil 4 Remake. If you guys aren't well aware, or if you are uninitiated as to what is going on, basically Game Informer, they covered the first 5 chapters of Resident Evil 4 Remake, and they're putting up impressions and a lot of gameplay videos over the month of February while covering the game. And there's been people that managed to get excerpts from the article, and I'm going to read the bullet points of what they grabbed and everything that's transpired so far with this game, and it sounds incredible. I'm not gonna lie, this information sounds really good. Will they capitalize from now till launch? We have to see. But I'm liking what I'm seeing so far, and I'm going to go over this one by one. It's not going to be the most expedient process, but I'll do my best, as I always do. So here we go. The first one is that originally they didn't want to do the remake due to the high pressure from the original, and I think that's fair. It's fair to have that sort of pressure on you, because look how much that the original Resident Evil 4 accomplished. It is one of the most high bar prolific games in all of media. You can even say that this created the over-the-shoulder mold for every third-person shooter to use. You have prominent games like The Last of Us, Gears of War, Uncharted, even the most recent Tomb Raider, all using OTS. OTS was groundbreaking for the time. Over the shoulder was groundbreaking, and it was something that was lightning in a bottle. You could even say perfect at the time. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. So can they strike lightning in a bottle twice with this game? And I like that the second point here elaborates on that and says their approach to the remake was less is more, to retain a lot about the game but dial it up to 11. I like that they're turning it up, they're cranking up the notches and trying to make this more tense, more survival oriented focused, which I saw in the trailer. It's a lot more darker things going on than it was in the original, and it sort of harkens back to the previous series formula, survival horror. So it's going to be some horror action going on, which I appreciate. Rather than a complete reimagining like Resident Evil 2, they wanted to capture and include what made RE4 great, which is the similar gameplay mechanics, while also modernizing it, expanding the player choice options, and sprinkling in surprises. Everything I heard from that, I love. I love the idea of having the players with, you know, drop them in a scenario, they have multiple options, multiple routes, they can stealth kill now, and apparently this is a question sometime later, or statement rather, but I think they say that you can stealth an entire section of the village without raising an alarm or anything, without alerting any of the villagers. I like that choice of freedom. So if I want to go in loud with shotguns blazing or stuff like that, I can do that. If I want to be quiet and not really get too much attention and maybe stealth kill everyone before the bell sequence, then I could also do that. The freedom of expression and choice is very important in games like this, and I'm glad they're adding in a lot more than necessary. Next up, the replayability and flexibility on how you play were key pillars in development. And that makes sense, because Resident Evil 4 initially is a very replayable game. It has a lot of features, and they're also adding this momentum and flexibility into the gameplay with the multiple options that they talked about earlier. So I love that choice. I love that idea, going back and playing the game and doing something readily different as opposed to what I did beforehand. Maybe I want to go in certain sections and like fucking be like Sam Fisher and just stab people in the neck like a lot. So that really just caters to my interests. Next up, we have no QTEs in cutscenes. This is going to upset some folks of the original, I assume, but it depends on how it's all done, because I always thought quick time events in cutscenes was tap X to not die, right? That's what they've always traditionally been, but I would say RE4 made it work in the benefit of at least the Krauser knife fight. That scene was incredible. I had my palms sweating the whole time trying to avoid all these knife strikes, and it was just a cutscene where you're tapping shit, and if you don't, then Leon dies in the most gruesome ways possible, with being shivved, throat slashed, all that shit just happened, and I was just like mesmerized at how they pulled that off. Because that there's gonna be like no sort of QTE button prompts whatsoever, I will suppose now this knife fight is all gameplay oriented focus, right? It's all different now. It's gotta be. Because they did say they're keeping what made the boss fights essential, but they're also modernizing those as well. I'm going to assume that Krauser himself, he's going to be a boss battle in that particular section, but it's going to be more gameplay oriented. So you're dodging the strikes or parrying and you're fighting Krauser right there in gameplay if there's going to be no QTs in the cutscene, because that's like such a pivotal moment in the game. I think this is the case because they're also saying that the brutal deaths are prevalent in gameplay. From the description of this, it's violent as fuck. Basically, when Leon's wrestling and fighting against the Ganado and his health goes red, it's danger time. The Ganado will plunge its hands into Leon's eye sockets and rip out his ojos. His eyes go flopping around like a Mortal Kombat fatality, and that is awesome. I'm so glad that they're embracing the brutal kill animations, because it's what made RE4 what RE4 is. It's very resonant with how that makeup of the game was, where it's very violent, unforgiving if you die, and I think they would have lost something in translation if they took that out of the game, if that wasn't there, the very core nature of the brutality in Resident Evil 4. Let's see what's next. Oh, you can carry multiple knives now. We saw it in the attaché case where you have the main knife that I don't know if I talked about this before, but apparently Leon's main knife was the same one from Resident Evil 2 Remake, given to him by Marvin, so he kept that as a memento, and that's kind of cool that he has that as a memory tool to remember that this guy here taught me how to fight or flight. This guy here, you know, he got me out of the rut in terms of being responsible and showing me that I can fight. I love that story context and lore of Leon keeping Marvin's knife. There was also disposable knives detailed in this sort of release junket of information. The disposable knives are going to be good for knife only runs, having multiple knives for New Game Plus to sort of say, if this guy grabs me, I can get the fuck out of the way or get him off of me real quick with a knife jab and not have to worry about depleting my main knife resource that I'm trying to upgrade and make it the most durable and great thing on earth, where I'm doing like godlike knife parries out of the blue. I'm going to be using that for the parries as opposed to using the small knives when I get grabbed. And I think that's going to be the main objective there. They're disposable knives, so you can get rid of them fast with the quick jabs and of course the quick grapples if you get grabbed without depleting your main weapon. And I think that's going to be really good for combat options when they put that in the game. So having more options is actually a very beneficial thing for knife only runs, and I can appreciate that. Is going to make getting that trophy far more easier with the disposable knives in play. Next, let's see, we have the HUD. It looks similar to The Last of Us from what I remember with the quick swap. So now you have 2 gun slots You can go up and pick between the shotgun or the sniper rifle. You can pick between multiple pistols on the left or right D-pad, and vice versa with grenades at the bottom. And I think this is fine. You know, The Last of Us borrowed from Resident Evil 4 in terms of core gameplay, so now we're sort of seeing the same irony where RE4 is taking the HUD from The Last of Us, and you can now quick swap multiple weapons. I think this is fine. Less time spent in the attaché case is great in my opinion, because all these, I mean, I love the attaché case, I really do, but if you want a seamless real-time experience, you're gonna want to isolate that as much as possible. So I have no problems with them taking inspiration. Like I said, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and this is cool in my book. Next, we have the fact that the laser sight is an upgrade now. So I guess you don't get that immediately this time around, but that's cool. Make the game harder for me, make it challenging, and when I get that laser sight, I will be shooting people in the legs and hopefully doing some suplexes in the process. Suplex City, bitch! I will be doing it if it's in the game. Hopefully it's in the game and you unlock that move during the castle segment, because that's where you get it. Yellow herbs are also in the game. That means that Leon will be able to upgrade his health by using those. Let's see what else. Ground executions can prevent lost plagas from formulating. What I heard recently with information is that one of the main directors or producers of this game, I'm not sure who, I'm not sure if it's Ampo or someone else, I think it's Ampo, but he is someone that was on Resident Evil 5 in terms of development, and one of the things you could do to prevent the plagas from spawning is if you do a front head takedown. Like if the guy is on the ground and you stomp on his head, the plaga will not come out, his head will be completely destroyed. They're taking similar mechanics, the guy who is directing this from RE5 taking similar mechanics for this game and implementing them there, and I really think that's gonna be awesome. I love how RE5 enhanced the gameplay for RE4. It made it seem like a natural evolution to me. Let's see what is next. What is next on the list? I'm doing this live. Fuck it, I'm doing it live. All right. R3 is now used to command Ashley. She can follow closely or fall back, but will not remain in one place. And there is no dumpsters for Ashley to hide in this time around. Alright. Singular command, just like the original. She can follow you, where Leon says, follow me, or wait. And those are still there. She will not remain in one place. I'm assuming that means she will follow you if you leave her in a place that's too far. So let me think. For example, there's that giant fucking archway. Well, no. The cemetery. Yeah, the cemetery. So I assume if you leave her near the door, the entrance door, in the cemetery, you go down the hill, she will eventually follow you before you exit out of the area, which I think that makes the AI smarter. In a way, it's not significant, but it is definitely an improvement as opposed to her standing there and not doing anything, not following you if she's too far. So I do like that change. I'm not sure how I feel about no dumpsters being prevalent. It's weird. It's gonna make the game a little bit harder in that regard, but I you know, it's a rescue mission, so it's gonna be some challenge there. I welcome a challenge like this. I really do enjoy adversity in my survival horror games, because if there's no adversity at all, then what is the point for me? I am appreciating that they're making Ashley Graham a bit more intelligent in the AI department as opposed to babysitting someone with a secondary health bar. And this leads into the next statement that they made, where Ashley does not have a traditional health bar this time around. Instead, if she gets damaged enough, she will be put in a down state, and if you don't pick her up during the down state, or she gets attacked during that down state, she will die permanently. I think this is fine. It reminds me of Ghost of Tsushima, where someone, your ally or whatever, they would get downed and you have to pick them up, and if you don't pick them up in time, then they will die out completely and you have to start over the mission again. In this instance, it's regulated to where, of course, she has no health bar, so she's not taking surrounding damage because of a couple of Ganado dickheads around the entire fucking game, and them doing all types of bows and arrows and shit and shooting you and then trying to blow you up. So this is nice that you get a second chance to pick up the supporting character and move on with your day, as opposed to saying, hey, here's a health bar, you gotta waste up my health items now. If you get shot or blown up, you're done. There goes my yellow herb, there goes my green herb. Now I can allocate all those resources to Leon, and I don't have to worry about Ashley being micromanaged. I think that's fine. I think it's fine the way they're doing it. I'm just gonna miss the dumpsters. I think the dumpsters kept her out of sight in certain areas, and they weren't prevalent throughout the entire game, just when I needed them the most and they were there. I understand they want to make it more scary, more intense, and have her in the moment. I just think that it could be a recipe for disaster if done incorrectly. We have to see how it goes. Her being smarter, though, is definitely a huge kudos for me, and I do like the fact that she will help Leon a little bit more than normal. It makes her feel organic to getting items and getting resources, and they can make that play up a little bit more than the original. I heard she's going to be going through more areas. There's more areas where you need the tag team combo between both, and that's pretty cool. I like that. Let's continue on here. I'm gonna try to make this quicker. There's a new weapon. There's the bolt thrower crossbow that's been added. I like shooting people in the face with crossbows, so this calls to me, hey, put some explosive crossbows in that bitch and I will be fully content in the process. There's a new enemy that wields a hammer and he wears a bull mask. It just reminds me of another giant brute, in my honest opinion. After seeing the screenshots of him, maybe he'll do some more unique things, but I think they're trying to say this is this game's executioner. That's what he reminds me of. There's more new enemies being teased by Capcom, so they are definitely putting in a lot more new additions than we think they are putting in, and I think that's great for a remake. You should try to squeeze in as much functionality between controlling better and new features as much as possible, and I think that's great. Moving on, let's see, there are more side quests in the game. There could be numerous things done, like fetch quests, puzzles, doing the target practice little mini game for the bottle caps, and more, and they're all going to be done through the merchant, and the merchant has more dialogue in the process. I think the merchant is fucking fantastic. What are you buying? What are you selling? Thank you. I fucking love that guy, and having more of him that is going to refine the gameplay and make you do stuff. And obviously, if he has you do fetch quests and blue medallions, he's going to give you free guns, discounts. He's very valuable to the game and Leon itself, you know what I mean? He can go around and just do stuff for the merchant and get all these items and tool up his arsenal. So I have no problem with seeing more of him, getting more lore, getting more exposition. I think this adds more to the game. The attaché case can now have perks such as increasing ammunition drops. Okay. I wonder what else you could do with that. If you can have like perks that will give you more ammo drops, maybe, I don't know. That sounds like you could do a lot with it, though, with the environment and the game itself, and trying to gather more perks on your person. Maybe more weapon drops, more discoveries on treasures, more exotic treasures. They have a trading system now. You could do something equivalent to that, where it's like you get more treasure perks and more money in the process with the pesetas. Yeah, you can do a lot with that. Holy shit. That's another thing that I'm appreciating. Let's see, you can barricade during the house segment like Resident Evil 2 Remake. Okay, now they have the boards coming back, which could keep the zombies out. I guess if you use the bookcase, it won't necessarily keep the Ganados out because they'll break through anyway. So some little tactics in there where they can't break through. They're still coming in one way or the other, I feel. It's like, fuck, man. And Luis is with you during the bullhead fight, which is interesting because this is a sub-boss fight, and I suppose they added him in to mix up the variety of everything, and he now will stab people. I wonder, can you still shoot Luis? And he turns around and he says, "Ha! Adios, Leon," and he just shoots Leon dead, and that scene occurs. I just wonder, I'm gonna be experimenting on a lot of things to make sure death scenes are still in or still out. I don't know, the verdict's out on that. Now we have the thoughts of the control schemes, and it's amazing because RE4 Remake has 6 control schemes, including one that emulates how OG RE4 is controlled. That's nice, because I'm going to want to play as classic RE4 controls because that is what I grew up with, that is what I'm familiar with, and having that hark back to the experience, it reminds me of Dead Space Remake because they have control schemes set up to be modernized, and then they have, I think when I played the modernized control scheme, I was just completely foreign to it, right? When I went back to the Dead Space 1 and Dead Space 2 control schemes, it felt like butter because that is what I was familiar with. So there's options for everybody, and as always, I love my options like I love my bread and butter, baby. Next up is talking about how the boss battles are still here in the game. I don't know if I touched on that already. It sounds like I did, but the boss battles are here from the original, but they are completely reimagined, and that's gonna keep me on my toes. Like I said, that Krauser knife fight has got to be immaculate gameplay, QTs or something like that. I think I said in the last video, I prefer if they took the Krauser fight at the end and made it like some jungle sneaking around fight where it's super tense and you don't know where Krauser is. He's in the trees, the tree lines, the bushes, all that shit, doing sneak attacks, and Leon is just fighting for his life. It's like the hunter versus the hunted in a jungle oriented environment, as opposed to how it was in the original where it's like some Aztec ruins or some shit. They could make it more tense with a horror focused segment with this sneaking around, as opposed to not doing anything with the stealth mechanics, and I think they are if they're completely reimagining fights. And the last thing is they said in the preview that this game blends horror and action very well, which is something I adore. I do feel like when we got to a certain point in Resident Evil 4 OG with the island, it became a shooting gallery. That's the area I'm gonna be very focal and critical on the most because I did not like the island in the original game. I felt like this is where the pacing just, they had some cool moments, like it was cool. They had some cool fights, some cool battles. You had Mike and shit, and he was like, I'll buy you another drink, I'll buy you a beer, I'll go to the bar, and that was cool. I hope they expand on Mike too. I hope he's, you know, prominent in a way where it makes sense and you like the guy just as much as you liked him in the original, if not more. And then there's that heartbreaking moment where Sadler kills him, and that happens. But they had cool moments, but I felt like the gameplay was too much of a shooting gallery, too much of a shooty bang bang, and less of slow creeping dread. It just wasn't as good as the village section. And they could change that, they could rework that to be better. The only other bits of information that I received is that there's going to be the laser sight in the game, which you won't have from the beginning. Again, they're trying to mix it up with the upgrade system, so I can see why they're spreading it out for different guns. I get that, that's cool. As long as it's still in the game, that's all that matters. And yellow herbs are in the game, so Leon can upgrade his health, and it could be maximum just like the original. there's also a prompt that I saw where Leon stabbed the Ganado in the back while Ashley was being carried away, which offers up more easy hand-to-hand combat as opposed to whipping out a certain gun and shooting Ashley by accident while being carried by the Ganado. I said this before though, I never really had a problem with shooting the Ganado in the leg when they were carrying Ashley away. I do like though that Leon could just run up on a dude, stab him, no problem, not have to worry about shooting the target and her at the same time. It just gives more options to the player itself, man. So good, so nice. I can't wait for this game though. I think it's going to have a demo. If they're previewing it to fucking Game Informer and they're showing new gameplay, of course, there's going to be a new demo. I heard people complain about the rain and the rain effects looking too white and too fat. Too white and too fat. I don't know where to go with that. But I think they're gonna fix it, because I heard from Dusk Golem that visual polish happens at the end of the development cycle for making the game, and they're gonna see all the complaints saying the rain needs to be translucent, and I agree with that, because I want to see during that segment of everything raining and it's a giant climactic battle from there. So hopefully Capcom is listening to that particular piece of constructive criticism. Anyway, my name is Renegade Operative. I am signing out. What did you guys think of the entire news dump of the Resident Evil 4 information that we got from the Game Informer magazine? All of it sounds pretty fine. A few things iffy here or there. I want to see how it works out. I want to see how I really want to see how it all plays, man. I'm just too excited to get my hands on it, so they should release that demo sooner than later. Anyway, I'm signing out. Tell me what you guys thought in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe if you really enjoy all this good motherfucking content, and I will see you guys on the flip side. Take care, peace out, and once again, don't get killed by a Ganado. Don't have your ojos ripped out because you don't want that. Peace out, people. See ya.